You need to see this footage of the alleged Black Knight satellite conspiracy theory. This is an alleged satellite that was captured by a Spanish astronomer named Jose Antonio Fernandez on August 26, 2019. This was uploaded to YouTube, and then it got deleted. And now people believe that the reason why it was deleted is because it was fake and part of a conspiracy theory that has been circulating since the 1990s. Some people believe that there is a U.S. spy satellite that is orbiting Earth, which has been monitoring us for decades and collecting our data. Some even believe that they have decoded messages from this satellite that have revealed secrets about the future. The Black Knight satellite conspiracy theory is one of the most popular conspiracy theories of all time. It's been the subject of countless books, documentaries, and TV shows. But what is the truth behind the Black Knight? In this video, we will be exploring the origins of the conspiracy theory, the evidence that has been presented to support it, and ultimately deciding whether or not we think it's true. So let's start at the beginning. Where did the Black Knight conspiracy theory come from? The story begins in the early 1960s with the launch of the first Echo satellite. Echo was a balloon-like device that was designed to reflect television signals back to Earth, effectively allowing multiple TV stations to broadcast their signals over a much wider area. While Echo was a technological marvel at the time, it also sparked fears that it could be used for nefarious purposes. Specifically, some people began to worry that the Echo satellite could be used to spy on people by bouncing radar waves off of them and measuring the time it took for them to return. If you were standing perfectly still when the radar waves hit you, it would be very easy to determine your exact location. These fears were only heightened when in 1967, U.S. military announced that it had successfully tested a new type of radar system that could track multiple targets simultaneously and measure their distances with great accuracy. The system was called the Ball-Top Radar, and it was reportedly so advanced that it could detect a person's heartbeat through solid concrete walls. Naturally, people began to wonder if the Ball-Top Radar system was being used in conjunction with the Echo satellite to spy on them. And so the Black Knight conspiracy theory was born. The name Black Knight comes from a series of alleged secret satellites that were launched in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Under Project A119. Project A119 was a joint U.S.-Canadian initiative to develop a surveillance satellite that could take photos of the Soviet Union without being detected. The project was highly classified at the time, and so naturally people began to speculate about what these mysterious satellites were really being used for. Some people began to believe that the Black Knight satellites were actually being used to monitor everyone on Earth, not just the Soviets. They believed that the satellites were equipped with advanced listening devices that could pick up on conversations, televisions, and radios. And some even believed that the satellites were able to transmit messages back to Earth, but the messages were encoded in such a way that only the government could understand them. This idea was further fueled by the fact that in 1977, a man named Duncan Lunnan claimed to have received a message from outer space that contained coordinates and instructions for building a time machine. Lunn and others who believed that the message was intended for him spent years trying to decipher it. But ultimately no one was able to figure out what it meant. However, the government quickly dismissed Lunn's claims, stating that the message was nothing more than static. And so the Black Knight conspiracy theory continued to grow. In the years that followed, many people came forward claiming to have received messages from outer space. Some of these people were famous, like actor Tom Cruise and musician Jimi Hendrix. But the government quickly dismissed these claims as well, stating that there was no way that these people were really receiving messages from outer space. The government's dismissal of these claims only served to fuel the conspiracy theory further. People began to believe that the government was lying to them about what was really going on, and that they were really receiving messages from outer space that the government didn't want them to know about. So let's talk about the evidence that has been presented to support the Black Knight conspiracy theory. One of the main pieces of evidence that is often cited is the fact that the government has never been able to definitively prove that there are no aliens out there. This is known as the argument from ignorance, and it is a logical fallacy. Just because we can't prove that something isn't true doesn't mean that it is true. For example, we can't prove that unicorns don't exist, but that doesn't mean that they do exist. We simply lack the evidence to say for sure. However, this argument is often used by conspiracy theorists to argue that if the government couldn't prove that something isn't true, then it must be true. Another piece of evidence that is often cited is the fact that the government has never been able to explain away all of the UFO sightings that have occurred over the years. Again, this is another example of the argument from ignorance. Just because we coup and explain something doesn't mean that there is a vast government conspiracy to hide it. There are many things that we can't explain, but that doesn't mean that they are part of a conspiracy. It's more likely that these sightings are simply misidentified objects or natural phenomena that have been misinterpreted as something extraterrestrial. The final piece of evidence that is often cited is the fact that the government has been involved in some pretty shady stuff in the past. For example, the government has been involved in numerous cases of illegal surveillance, and it has also been involved in some pretty unethical experiments. Because of this, some people believe that the government is capable of anything, and that they should not be trusted. Therefore, if the government says that there is no evidence of aliens, these people are inclined to believe that there is. But the fact of the matter is, just because the government has been involved in some shady stuff in the past does not mean that they are lying about aliens. It's more likely that the government is simply trying to prevent mass panic and chaos, which is understandable. We should also mention that there is no credible evidence to suggest that there is a satellite orbiting Earth that is spying on us or transmitting messages to us. All of the evidence that has been presented is either based on the argument from ignorance or it has been debunked. For example, the satellite images that are often used to support the conspiracy theory are not actually of a satellite. They're of a weather balloon or a cloud formation. Similarly, the alleged messages from outer space have been decoded, and they have been shown to be nothing more than static or misinterpretations. As far as we can tell, the Black Knight conspiracy theory is nothing more than a baseless and unfounded claim that has been perpetuated by those who are interested in spreading fear and distrust of the government. There is no evidence to support it, and all of the evidence that has been presented has been debunked. Additionally, the conspiracy theory is based on a number of logical fallacies, including the argument from ignorance. Ultimately, we can conclude that the Black Knight conspiracy theory is not true. That being said, we can also understand why some people might believe it. After all, the government has been involved in some pretty shady stuff in the past, and it is understandable why some people might not trust them. Additionally, we live in a world where it seems like everyone is spying on everyone else. So it's not really that far of a stretch to think that the government might be spying on us as well. However, the fact of the matter is, there is no evidence to support the Black Knight conspiracy theory, and all of the evidence that has been presented has been debunked. If you enjoyed this video, check out other videos about mysterious subjects. Thank you for watching.